The Paul Henry factor, from no filter on TV to likely act MP, the celebritization of politics, plus polls, how to use them wisely, and we've got a little update on who's winning. Finally, New Zealand and India. We DTR the FTA. DTR means define the relationship. I don't need to tell you guys what FTA means, right? You're smart. That's why you're here with Maxim Institute's Select Committee Politics Podcast. I'm Tim Wilson, CE of Maxim Institute, and I'm here with Research Manager Marianne Spurdle and a Communication Strategist Josiah Brown. Great to have you with us. Okay, Marianne, you have lived under President Reagan and Governor Schwarzenegger in the US. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be governed by celebrities? And what's your take on this?
I mean, the idealist in me is not a fan. Reagan was still just president when we moved to California. And I think Schwarzenegger became governor just after I left. And Reagan had also been governor of California. So it was pretty normal there for like an actor to be in governance. I don't like the way that we latch onto people because of how they look on screen. Like, it's actually quite shallow, but at the same time, it doesn't disqualify someone. I mean, Reagan was actually great at negotiating. He was a great writer. He was, more than just funny. Like, he actually understood things, great with diplomacy. So you can't write someone off just because they were a pretty face or voice in another life.
Don't write people off just because they're attractive. The thing with Paul Henry, I think, which is interesting, is his role has been as a critic in many ways.
And that's my concern, is you have to compromise when you work in government. You have to know how to bring people together if you're going to be successful. You have to understand the realities of things. And he's already shown a tendency to just kind of make up policy on the fly. And you can't actually just have an opinion. If you're going to be a good policymaker, you have to really understand the details of things, how it plays out in real life, and get a lot of people's opinions before you come out with something like that, and get your party on board. So that might be a challenge for him.
Yeah, because at the press conference announcing his candidacy, Josiah, he also pitched a $10 billion cancer hospital on the fly, saying, it wouldn't be that hard to make happen. Well, it's actually more expensive, apparently, some commentators have said, than the brand new hospital in Dunedin. So there is obviously a sort of timeline issue here, an expense issue that he probably needs. It's a discipline he'll need to learn.
Yeah, so the ACT Party leaders will need to figure out how they keep their newest signing in line. But I think his signing, and I'm using that term intentionally, is because we've sort of seen these marquee signings so far in the election campaign, these sort of pre-season moves. So New Zealand First have obviously attracted some key players, and National are now trying to get one of their own. I think the thing about Paul Henry is that he will be able to, I think, play that truth teller role that ACT have been looking for. New Zealand First certainly have that kind of populist truth teller type position filled, but I think that's really where he's going to play to his strengths and add something for the ACT campaign. But I do just think generally, and I wonder whether we see this reflected in the polls, that ACT has really struggled to get sort of policy cut through. What is their plan, their agenda for the election, what they would like to see? Last time round it was the Treaty Principles Bill. What is it this time? They have a few policies around law and order, around smaller, more accountable, efficient government, and also some other policies around autonomy. But I think getting that cut through really will be the challenge for ACT.
And what's interesting to me about this is that the person who got that cut through before was David Seymour, on Dancing with the Stars, always ready with a searing bon mot, or series of bon mots, just to I guess get the headlines and get attention. And in some sense, I think the bringing Paul Henry in suggests that this is not David Seymour's wheelhouse anymore. I also wonder whether is Paul Henry going to add to their popularity, in that Paul Henry appeals to people who were watching TV in the 2000s and maybe part of the 2010s. So there's a particular demographic there. Other perhaps outlying demographics, but the say, social media generation, be like, who is this schmuck? And other people will also be like, oh, he's that guy that made people uncomfortable on TV. I'm not touching him with a barge pole. So I think it's a big name, and as we're saying, the celebritization of politics in terms of, you've got Tane Randall for New Zealand First, whom we haven't heard that much from, but an All Black, that's pretty good. Michael Laws, boy oh boy, Michael Laws versus Paul Henry in a debate. Now that's one I got to say I would go to. Yeah. Anyway, let's and Josiah, you were referring to polls just before. In terms of, because we're looking at, there's just this sort of drip feed of, oh, here's this poll, oh, here's a new poll, oh, the coalition's in trouble, oh, no, they're not, oh, what about the Opportunities Party? For us here, I think at Maxim, the poll of polls is the important part. Tell me why.
Yeah, so the poll of polls operates by looking at historic polling data. It factors in some of the biases that those polling that polling data has. It looks at election results, and basically what it's trying to do is run simulations. If an election was held 4,000 times, how many times would this result eventuate? So this particular model does 4,000 simulations. It's a little bit like Avengers Infinity War. I'm sure you've both seen it, where Doctor Strange says, I've seen 14,605 possible futures, and there's only one where we win. And so this is basically that. Well, how many times does a certain result occur? So that's basically how the poll of poll works, and it's supposed to smooth out some of those spikes that we see with polling.
And what's interesting with the poll of polls is, they're releasing them more regularly, or let's say there are more of them out. So it used to be that the coalition had a 75% chance of re-election. That dropped to, I think, 69. Now down in the latest one to 62. So there's some issues there.
And it's not been a long period of time for that drop to happen. So it does show how the model works. It does adjust with these new results, which is really interesting.
Useful for you, Marianne?
Yeah, I really like the poll of polls, because with this whole, weekly release of information, I'm not up for the roller coaster of, oh, it's going this way, oh, it's going that way, when actually the really important data is going to be here in like 3 months' time, or 4 really. So I'm the kind of person who watches the last 2 games of the World Cup. Just, it saves time, it saves adrenaline. It's just, this is the information I need to know, and I can move on. The poll of polls is helpful because it kind of gives the shape of things without, like you said, it takes out the noise. Yeah, I think it's useful.
By the way, we're into the semi-finals now with the World Cup, just FYI.
And now I'm paying attention.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. Interesting too, in terms of the Labour Greens Te Pāti Māori victory, that still rates less than double figures. In the poll of polls. So these are things to keep in mind as we're increasingly being overwhelmed with the latest poll. Here's the latest, the Reed Research, the One News Valerian. Let's just take a step back, take a breath, and see what was it? Who was the one that was doing the simulations that you were saying that we both heard of?
Doctor Strange and Avengers.
See what Doctor Strange says. All right, let's move to the India Free Trade Agreement. We are DTRing this, defining the relationship. You guys knew what that meant anyway. So India and New Zealand, we've got a free trade agreement. There's been some contention about about immigration aspects to it. Also, the sort of elephant in the room is the $20 billion target. What are people arguing about with that, Marianne?
It's very vague. It's, if we don't hit the target, what does happen? So, say 5 years' time, India, I don't know what the time frame is on it, looks at it and goes, you've not hit this target, and so we're taking away this right. Does that happen? Or do we all just go, oh, sorry, we'll keep trying? Like, it's not defined. So what appears to be happening, and aside from the fact that we all assume we're not going to hit it, apparently.
And just so I wasn't helpful in that $20 billion target is $20 billion of investment in India.
Private investment in India. So this is not the government saying, okay, we're writing a check. It's saying private investors from New Zealand are going to, and they might, but all the government can really do is sweeten the deal and encourage them to, because we're not a communist country. So assuming it doesn't happen, which we seem to be, will anything bad happen? It seems to be written in such a way that both Modi and Luxon can go home and say, look at the deal that I got, and look good and look powerful. And so the fact that there's ambiguity there, I think, works in both of their favor, except for when we go, but then what happens? And then nobody answers because they don't know.
The term I would use is strategic ambiguity.
Strategic.
The text of the agreement says that we will promote foreign direct investment. It doesn't say that we'll deliver it. And so you might think, oh, well, great, then the New Zealand version is correct. Well, no, because there's a clause further down talking about potential rebalancing if India feels we haven't met our obligation to promote. On top of that, you have Modi saying this is a $20 billion commitment. So there are definitely different messages being thrown around depending on what is most politically expedient.
And rebalance is a very ambiguous word.
Very ambiguous, yeah.
So we just can't buy some reels on social media saying invest in India. Hey, rich New Zealanders, invest in India. It's awesome. And go, okay, we did our work.
Yeah. So there's definitely the free trade agreement, which is there as a thing that's sort of bubbling behind the scenes. So you've got the investment commitment as a thing. You've also got the immigration issue, which New Zealand has raised. But I think the takeaway from Modi's visit, because it was a very rapid visit, 24 hours he was here, met officials on Government House lawn, then went to Spark Arena and spoke to 10,000 adoring fans. David Seymour described him as a cross between a charismatic Baptist preacher, Winston Churchill, and a New World leader. And some of the commentary around Modi has been that he really does kind of possess this sort of rock star aura. And so we saw the same in Australia, the Indian community there turning out to support him. There were some detractors and protesters there as well, but a similar thing here. But the key thing was his announcement of a strategic partnership, and this is the defining the relationship. And so basically it provides a framework for greater cooperation in areas like defence, maritime security, technology development, agriculture, etc. So this relationship upgrade, it's more than the free trade deal. This is supplementary to it and has got a geopolitical component to it. So India arrived at a similar relationship status with Australia, and it really does point to a rebalancing. New Zealand are looking to move economic dependence from China, because obviously they're our biggest trading partner, and looking to move that to India. But with that is more cooperation on things like defence, maritime security. So there does seem to be a geopolitical element to this that I'm not sure has been picked up maybe the way it deserves to.
Yeah, and important to do that too, because I think it was John Key in an interview said that in the future there will be three big powers: the United States, China, and India. That geopolitical, particularly as well. We've said this a million times, but the post quote unquote consensus rules based order is a time of increasing volatility, and we want to economically and geopolitically hedge our bets. We want to be friends with all of the big kids at school, so that they look after us if any of the other big kids decide to take us around to the back of the bike sheds and give us a serve or two. One more thing about Modi, it just occurred to me, he sounds like he is a political celebrity rather than a celebrity who wants to be a politician. I wonder if he could act, say, now this is the kind of guy we need. We need a rock star who is able to fill Spark Arena, and look, this could be, I'm sorry, Paul Henry, you're going to have to go back to TVNZ, back to the board, beg your way back in, because we've got Modi doing a side hustle for I almost said New Zealand First, for ACT.
That is what he said to Hosking on Monday morning doing the PM interview. It was that maybe we should be taking some tips, some pointers from Modi. So there might be something to that.
Yep. Okay. Get better at speaking to the adoring crowds, but first get the crowd to adore you. Which brings us to Fantasy Beehive, and this is the part of the podcast where we pick the political winners for this week, but we do it last week before they won or lost anything. Josiah, can you explain how that works?
Yeah, so it works like fantasy football. You pick real life players, and depending on how they perform in real life, you get points. As it so happens for Fantasy Beehive, it's their performance in the house, so whether they're asking questions, written or orally, if they're getting bills progressed. But we also measure media performance. How much cut through are they getting? But media performance is not something that can be strictly measured by the numbers, because there is such a thing as good media and bad media, and so we deduct points where we feel politicians have had coverage for the wrong reasons.
Is this the Vibes?
This is the Vibes. I can't remember the acronym, but it's legit.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so let's say who we picked, Marianne. Who'd you got? And then we'll do the big reveal after this.
Oh, so no points? Just
Well, no points yet. Just who'd you pick?
Mark
and
Mitchell,
why?
Megan Woods, James Meager. I spent 30 seconds in front of the screen with the list of names and thought, those look good. And I had to pick something I didn't pick last week, and so I deserve to lose. There was no strategy involved.
You need to bring more to this. This is outrageous, 30 seconds. I'm sure you spent at least 45 seconds.
Well,
Josiah.
yeah, I spent quite a long time picking. Obviously, it's recess week coming up, so media matters. So that shaped my pick. And of course, you.
Oh, yeah. So that was framing my... I thought I went for my media performers as well, but who did you pick?
Well, I picked Chris Bishop, Chris Hipkins, and Parmjeet Palmer. Those were my picks. Yeah.
Okay. I also picked Chris Bishop, again, because it's recess week, so they're all on holiday. Nothing's happening in Parliament, so who are the media doyens? Chris Bishop, Willie Jackson, Chloe Swarbrick.
Well, you did go for a media star team.
Yeah, I sure did. How'd you do, Marianne?
4 points.
4 points.
Yeah.
Out of...
Well, it's
So-
not really an out
It's
of.
not
It's
out.
just
No,
4 points.
Yeah,
which is
they
probably,
got quoted either once or twice in the case of Megan Woods.
for a recess week, 4 points, I don't think it's too bad.
Too bad. Okay, so
Okay, I thought I was doing terribly.
I got 5. And my lead performer was Chris Bishop, who got 4 points. And one of the reasons he got there was the stuff about, we're downgrading the number of roads of national significance. Oh, that's a policy U-turn. Orkies, so that's not great. But reintroduction of crushing cars used for anti-social behaviour. I knew it. Crusher Collins is back, except it's actually, what is it, Basher Bishop?
Yeah, let's coin that. Basher Bishop. That's good. But do we deduct any vibes points? Bearing in mind that I also have Bishop, so I'm not inclined to do that, but it was a bit of a walk back. So is it a -1, -2?
Let's just say the algorithm took care of it. What did you pick? What's the number?
Well, I scored 10 points, but I do feel that a -1 is in order for Chris Bishop because it was a walk back. So I would bump that down to 9. So and if we're doing -1 for me, you have the same pick. It also has to be a -1 for you.
Can I say it feels different when you're on 4
Yeah.
to go down to 3, to lose 25%, to go down from 10 to 9. So not only is the pungent aroma of your victory that has now filled this room, but also of my loss. But anyway, you win, Josiah. Well done. And once again, he wins, we lose. Boo. It's going to be different next week when we see you again on the Maxim Institute Select Committee podcast. By the way, subscribe. It's awesome. You need us. We need you. It's a relationship. We'll DTR it next week. Bye.